July, 8 minutes past 2 p.m. in the afternoon in Australia. Here is my latest video blog. Okay, so it's Tuesday. It's funny how this whole cryptocurrency thing has sort of taken over my life a little bit in the last 3 or 4 months. One thing I have noticed is that every day it just seems to keep changing, and there's so many things to learn. And I'm a big, I'd say it's about knowledge and being able to absorb all these elements, and that's the only way you get better at understanding elements of life. And I think our perspectives also broaden when we do that and put ourselves in that position. If you have a fixed mindset, you're in pretty much in trouble for the rest of your life. So I'm pretty much one of those sort of guys that, every day I wake up, I feel pretty good. I'm always excited about what's ahead, and I like being creative. However, I always say to myself that I don't know everything, and I need to keep learning and keep absorbing as much information as I can. And I suppose this is one part of doing it. I get to share that with you guys and anyone that's actually listening. And I assume there's 1 or 2 people out there listening to these. And today I just want to run through a quick review on EOS, only because it's just hot at the moment and I'm very interested in it. I'm not going to talk too much about it. The other one is that I'm going to run through the web report. I was kindly given the web report, and it has come a bit of a thing, so I'm going to do my interpretation, my perspective through that. Yes, these videos tend to be a little bit longer, but I am getting better at it and just picking out the key elements. I have had a read of the document already, so I've got a couple of little ideas and a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention. In regards to EOS, we're into period 3. And so we had 0, 1, 2 and 3. First day was 90 cents, 80 to 90 cents, obviously based on the current exchange rate. Second day was about 170. Yesterday was $6 US. So anyone that bought yesterday, and I've had a couple of people email me and just questioning the return for their money, and unfortunately, because it went for $6, you pretty much paid 6 times what anyone else pretty much paid on the other days. And if you got in right now with 5 hours to go on period 3, it's standing at around about 95 cents US. So it's looking like that the next few days, and I've wrote a bit about this in one of my blogs, I think it's going to go in waves, and it's all relative to big money. I mean, someone with a lot of money could liquidate and have that available on one particular day, and we would never ever know that that's going to occur, and they decide to invest. And I think that's what happened yesterday. There was some big surges of money came into the space, and they pushed the price up to $6. Whether that was manipulated or not, I'm not sure. We just don't know. I'm just speculating. But the positive side for this, I suppose, is that for anyone that hasn't got EOS or is looking to improve their position, there's going to be, from what I can see, great opportunity to get EOS for under $2. And if you can get it anywhere but under $1.50 US would seem really good. And what's it going to be like in 100 to 150 to 200 days? Is it going to settle under $1? It might even get down under 50 cents. Maybe the money will be focused on other areas of this cryptocurrency space. So I've got my little EOS scan window open every day, and I just have a quick look at it. And I have got a couple of Ethereum put aside, so I can maybe improve my existing EOS position. I mean, I was lucky to buy in on first day, but maybe that buying in on the first day was not so lucky. By the end of this 350 days, we might find that was really expensive. So who knows? It's an amazing concept in regards to ICOs. Quite exciting. Very interested to see how it all pans out. So that's EOS. Now I'm just going to click this screen and minimize, and what should come up? There we go. It's like having special effects in Hollywood, isn't it? On a very low budget. Okay, hot docket days. Hot rocket? What did I say? Hot docket. Hot rocket days. So this is the forecast for July, August. Now, the reason why it's July, August is because I think Cliff High is having a month off, and he does state that at the end of this report. So this is July, August is the only one we're going to get for the next 60 days as such. And it's the Naked Wealth Report number 5. Nice big writing, so if you can see the screen, I suppose you can freeze any of this too if you wanted to read a particular paragraph again to get a better understanding if I don't quite articulate it or you just didn't quite grasp it. That's the advantage of doing it this way. So this is just the disclaimer, and I've read it out a couple of times, and I'm just going to keep doing it because I think this is like a duty of care for me. So notes to readers: this is the period of the hyperinflation language that has been forecast in the Ultra reports and the previous Bare Naked Wealth report. Not all of the altcoins are showing in our data sets as surviving through the period of hyperinflation, which is also not clearly defined in its extent, but does show as continuing through into fall. Those altcoins and others listed are not guaranteed to survive this period, though many will. Those coins discussed herein met the requirement of having both minimum levels of linguistic support in terms of datasets, as well as having enough identified temporal markers to be able to provide the sophisticated speculator with some small linguistic guidance to potential activities within the trading of these vehicles. Again, note that Again, note that we are linguistically within a period of defined, or we're defining it as inflationary. This means that inherently risks are masked or hidden by large capital inflows, but they still exist and, if anything, are magnified. I have touched on this before. I do believe there's some big money in play here. Because it's so big, it's out of proportion with all the small players. So when they decide to make key movements within the market, we do see changes. It could be within a specific altcoin, could be within the market cap, and I think that's going to happen for some time just due to the nature of the cap. In realistic terms, it's not that big. So trade on the information within this report at your own risk. Warning, danger, Will Robinson, stop now, go back and read that again. Now what he's got in this report is a little bit of information on weather, and some stuff in regards to the retail sector, gold and silver, and I'm going to cover all of that. Now, it's easy for me to dictate this, and I do get caught up in that, and I don't mind dictating it, but I just want you to be aware that it does take a little bit longer to get through. This section here is talking about Earth going into an ice age. Now, whether or not you believe in global warming or climate change or geoengineering or chemtrails, or solar radiation, I sort of believe in quite a few of those. I'm a bit of a believer in regards to the sun, and I have done a lot of study on the sun going through certain cycles, and it does have a coronal mass. It is sending out some massive coronal mass ejections at the moment, especially all the way through 2016. I've got hundreds of files of photos because I was recording it throughout the year of 2016. It hasn't been as hectic this year in 2017 in my area. That's in regards to things like chemtrails and those type of things. But you know, it's all about perspective, and I've dived in and head first and had a look at all of these things. You know, we don't really know the ultimate truth. We do get confused, and I think it's all connected one way or another. I do believe that it all comes back to the Earth and the Sun and cycles. Everything that energy, everything that I preach is all about cycles and understanding how life works. And I believe that's always going to prevail rather than a man-made infection. However, there's no doubt that we're guilty of pollution and things like that, and I think that could compound on an existing cycle, and that's what I think global warming is. I think if there is an issue with pollution, it's only going to bring these cycles forward or accelerate them. So we might find that we go into an ice age a little bit quicker than we would if we were still living in a non-industrial age. So that's my perspective. I'm not here to force any perspectives down anyone's throats. That's just how I feel. I think a lot of it's got to do with the sun at the moment. You can feel it. They're talking about Earth is changing on its way to a rebirth. Probably several hundred years out, the process will settle down. This is happening in such a way that we are now going to take this shitstorm at its first and worst. The heat in North America is not a good sign. It was a toss-up to which continent would go which way. So Africa is going cold first. And I'm going to just skip through a little bit of this. The forecast is to be persistent and increasing in intensity while shrinking the time frame involved. The idea coming from the data is that 2017 marks the start of a patterning period in which new weather will be emerging across the globe. And I think we've seen lots of irregular weather, and I think that's what comes with this type of scenario, is that it's not necessarily changing, it just gets a little bit more aggressive. So the ups and downs of weather are a little bit more aggressive. So we will have heat waves, and then we have cold snaps and those type of things. And that's what I've been noticing in my area. I mean, I've been living in my area for almost 43 years, and there's no doubt weather changes, and I think the earth changes, and I've noticed it quite a lot. And yeah, what's the truth? Are we hitting an ice age? As if the emergence into ice age conditions were not enough in truth, especially in impacts on water, power and effective distribution. They talks about some earthquakes, and he talks about some planetary oddities manifesting with new lands off the coast of the USA. Talking about seismic shocks. The idea is that from about July 20th outward is a time a series of earthquake events of various levels are going to be continuing to draw attention back to the planet under our feet. So, what does all this mean? I think if you look at weather and anything that's going to affect our environment, it's going to affect everything in life, whether that's finances, and I think that's what he's linking this to. In this section is discussed the general emotional tone flow through the periods indicated. The data reported on within this section is subject to the error ranges indicated in the addendum to this document next to the last page. Trading against these dates is a risk for which the reader assumes responsibility. Temporal markers as may be discovered as discussed here. So again, take all of this with a grain of salt. This is an interpretation on temporal markers, language, and he even admits that he's made some errors in regards to the gold rush, which I'm going to get to a little bit later. So July. The data has the emotional flow of the month blending into it, but also acting as a lead-in or warm-up for the seismic gyrations of August. He's talking about a lot of activity in the next 2 months. Seismics, craziness of cryptocurrency summers in the northern hemisphere. Again, you can always pause these screens if you want to read through. I'm just giving you little gold nuggets. I have read this, but I don't want to also just read. It gets a little bit boring, and I want to give you the key information. So I was talking about the cryptocurrency's gold rush of 2017, and this is where he's sort of connecting maybe that the language he was talking about in regards to gold or the rush or the energy was actually into cryptocurrencies rather than gold and silver. But I'll get to that when it comes to it. So again, you can read this if you want. It's not a lot there. It's coming down. It's talking about ICOs and how they're dominating data sets. Nothing specific into any coins, it's just language. Yeah, a little bit of just ups and downs, the waves of energy going in and out. Global gold rush, talking in regards to August. Kangaroo Island, or Kangaroo Land, which is obviously, well, you think that's Australia, wouldn't you? Our data sets have repeated references both to Kangaroo Land and to Africa. In the case of Kangaroo Land, the data has a burst of optimism showing up even as the data shows the real estate fiasco. Okay, reached the combustion point. Please note that there are also repeated references for fires being out of control in July that are further suggesting that the real estate markets are going to flame out. In spite of the residents of Kangaroo Land being really property besotted, data, both the national and individual moods being very elevated over late July through August and into September. The data is indicating a mood swing in an upward direction. Look, there is some issues in Australia with the entire real estate. I think it is in a massive bubble, huge bubble. We pay ridiculous amounts of money for properties, especially if you're in the major cities. Where I live is not too bad. However, it's still out of reach for anyone who wants to come in the market and buy. Just can't do it. Coming down. Okay. So by 2020, the data is forecasting that the planet will have fully engaged humanity's attention within a rapid shift into a mostly misunderstood climate pattern. UV-filled, harsh, brilliant light, mind-numbing heat, and very little warming. Invisibly reflecting light, inbound red giants. These are key words that I'm pulling out. Sounds like the sun to me. By 2020, the data has the planet and its crazy inhabitants both being more so. First, the planet is indicated to be larger and stranger and well into its unfolding new climate regime. I'll take this fairly seriously. I mean, for a lot of the information that I've been reading does show a catastrophe. And there are some sites around the world, some sites on the internet that are actually predicting massive changes in the population levels of all the countries around the world leading up to 2025. And they're talking about almost 40 to 50% reduction in these particular population estimations. So I'm not here to fearmonger. There just shows there's a lot of information I've been reading, and this is again keywords, whether that's just pulling out words from what would you call it? YouTube has a lot of these fake type of videos and things like that. I'm not sure if this language is grabbing from these fake news. I don't like using that word because that's normally associated with actual true news. But yeah, just keep your eye on the weather. Again, you can read this if you like. I'm not going to cover too much of that because I know you're actually here for the crypto. So I'm going to get into the crypto space, okay? Crypto space is divided into many subsectors. This section discusses the general trends showing up for a subsector within our model space. So we've got game space. At the beginning of this year, the data sets that had been forecasting the rise of Ripple and Ethereum had also contained the gamers as a new strength coming into crypto space. This is the forecast merging of the gaming and cryptocurrency spaces. This is being forecast by our model space for the last year as being a very powerhouse of joining, or are joining. This space is indicated to grow over the next decade or longer into a tripod leg. These long ranges forecasts have a few of the upstarts that are going to be emerging in these last years of this decade will become the mega giant net industries of the future. Very interesting. That's a very reasonable thing. This is the Sony Sanyo type of concept, Who gets in first? You've got game space, I think you've got game credits. Digibyte was talking about it. I don't know if they're as serious, but you never know. All of a sudden they might come out of the blue and have some new news in regards to that part of their direction. And there's a few others that I can't recall right now, but maybe go and have a look at some of the gaming coins if you're into that. I mean, at the end of the day, you really want to, there's that term again, you want to actually attach yourself to cryptocurrencies that you're emotionally invested in. I believe, and not all of it has to be about just investment. I think it's also worth investing in things that you think are going to create a positive space for people. Opening debuts. So this section reviews new offerings in crypto space on technical and linguistic levels. In this section are discussions of the new coins, tokens and complex structures that are soon to be offered or are already in the ICO phase. I have a problem with ICOs in the sense that I believe that it's a bit of a money grab. I also believe that there's a lot of them. I do believe that they're also saturating the market with substandard tech and experience just for the sake of grabbing money. In an unregulated sector and industry, it's you've got to be mindful that some of these ICOs are there, maybe with ill intent, and I think the other side of it is because of the energy behind ICOs. You might be investing in a product that, if it was released on normal terms on the stock market or on their own accord, you might find it wouldn't do very well anyway. It just doesn't have the legs. It doesn't have the X factor. It doesn't have the foundation. However, in the fairy floss of ICO, it all looks very exciting, and you can invest in tokens. So I'd be very mindful about what ICOs you get into. I've only invested in two, which is Peer Players and EOS, and they're both on the graphene, and they're both connected to a foundation of transaction speed and scalability based around the future of blockchain. That to me seems like probably the best investment rather than just small little segments. But that's what diversification is about, and I think you've got to do your own research. OX project, I have never heard of it. The OX project is taking a very excited approach to the issue of token swapping or trading. Unlike some other projects in the space of blockchain asset swapping, trading, selling, converting, the OX project is developing standards of operational best practice or practices as part of the process. This is to say that they are examining the larger issue of cross-blockchain connections and thus the needs around a standardized method for such connections, especially given the proliferation of the blockchain technology. So they're talking about, doesn't say too much here, but it's talking about, I suppose, exchanging dead tokens for good tokens. That'd be very interesting. Keep your eye on that. Doesn't excite me that much. I've noticed he hasn't got the little key phrases in regards to whether it's short term or long term like he did in the previous one. He hasn't mentioned that. I think he's taken that out. He's refusing to give, or he's decided not to give advice, which I think is a good thing. You've got to do your own research. ADDEX. This concept will be another engine for both growth and expansion. The ADDEX team is clearly well suited to delivery of the system in which advertising will be disintermediated. Our data sets have had the advertising industry as being a key target sector for the removal of the waste layer. The ADDEX network has a very sound technical approach. Doesn't excite me. I'd have to go and look into it. Straight away it doesn't excite me. The links are there. Blockcat is aiming at the smart contract wizard market segment. This will be a very crowded space, rapidly filling up as the category of interface tools are considered to be the low-hanging fruit of any new digital technology. While there will be first mover advantage in the space, innovations and the ability to change with the rapidly altering underlying network architecture is far more important than who's on first. That's true. Again, doesn't say too much. Blockcat, don't know much about it. BlockTix, the space for entertainment ticket transactions is going to be overcrowded and hyper-competitive, and BlockTix has neither exclusive first mover advantage nor establishes presence in the space. However, in this space, both of the latter are likely positive effect for the effort. Other positives for BlockTix is a focus on anti-counterfeiting and the development team. Well, I mean, no doubt entertainment's going to be a major player. BlockTix, cool name. Sometimes, you know, that whole branding element, and if they do get in there, they might be able to, take a serious amount of market share. So something interesting to have a look at. I'm not too sure how that's going to differ from the existing ability to buy tickets. I mean, what does the blockchain offer? Maybe more seamless transactions, or are they going to give a return of income? I'm not too sure. It doesn't quite say in here. So skipping on. Not available in the USA, DIM and DIM coin, a keeper. This concept is both intriguing and socially supported. The white paper and the depth of work so far with compliance as well as structure point to quality work intended to last a long time. The approach to the DIM financial ecosystem as designed is easily targeted as the segment of global population that has no access to fintech in the form of the current debt-based financial instruments. The DIM token to DIM coin starts the financial ecosystem off with a two-tier currency which is perfect for managing the risks of such things as internal network volatility being induced by wild swings in the price of coins due to large sales. This is a complete software representation of trading between humans. Okay, maybe something to have a look at. He's written a keeper, but again, that's a perspective. It sounds interesting. It's connected to the financial sector of this whole cryptocurrency rage that's going on. So have a look at it. Library. Now, I've got this on my list. I haven't got any. People do talk about it a lot. I need to get a better understanding. It's just the next one that I probably should have a look at. Library is one of the coolest concepts in the coin offering world. At one level, it seems a rather mundane function for a fully decentralized computer network of data sharing, example files, videos, audio, whatever, but it is slightly twisted with a hook into blockchain for namespace allocation and delivery. Library will succeed due to the inherent self-motivating community participation that is designed into the concept. With the blockchain connection comes costs and therefore tokens, coins. These are integral to the library network. To pay for gas, it's on Ethereum, I imagine. I think Ethereum is already obsolete. Now have a look into library. Coming down, Pillar project. The Pillar wallet project is an ambitious move into the smart wallet marketplace. This space is all about a one-shop or one-stop dashboard for all your coins, tokens, complexity, and e-critters. The space is showing as being turbulent and filled with problems and deliberate scams. However, it shows as being very lucrative and very long lasting. So it's not about scams being connected to Pillar Project. I think that's about scams being certain people setting up probably looks like a smart wallet. You go and buy it, you move all your coins in there, and all of a sudden your coins are gone. That's probably a high possibility. So be very mindful about when the smart wallets come onto the market. I'll be only going through reliable sources, and there's no doubt, I have actually thought about this. I think we all want one central place for our coins. However, it's not a bad thing having your tokens separated and moved into different things. I mean, the tokens offer different things, like there's point of proof of stake and those type of things, so, and interest and whatnot. So how is that going to evolve into smart wallet? I'm not sure. So Pillar Project, something to be interested in or have a look at. Looks like Poet or po.et, I imagine Poet. The Poet project is all about proof of existence. The concept is easily seized as a very good disintermediation layer for content creators that will allow the production of smart content licensing in ways not yet even imagined by the po.et project itself. So that's interesting. As a concept, I think that's interesting. Is it an investment issue, interest? Probably not. I think it's probably going to be a major element to this entire new world of smart contracts. But again, have a look at it. You can always freeze the screen, have a look. Proppy, a physical asset backed token. You can already do that with Bitshares. I think you can do it, or maybe not physical. That's interesting. The data has the space of global real estate sales being eaten by the blockchain over these surprisingly few next years. The space will become overcrowded and not exclusionary, according to the data, but there are also clear signs for a first mover advantage within the space. So being able to connect real physical assets to token, or a real physical asset backed token. So it's like having gold as a backing to a particular token, and I think we may see a little bit more of that at some stage. 10x not available in the USA. Data has a space that 10x is entering as being both crowded and brutal, the latter in the sheer number of failures coming into the convertibility space. The idea is that exchanges are really necessary both for tokens and data. Yep, doesn't. Some of these just don't excite me. It's interesting, but it doesn't excite me. I think a lot of the main players are out there. There's no doubt there's going to be little hybrids and other people. There's going to be a market saturated with very similar looking offers, if you like, in regards to services. Exin or Zinfin, while nothing with government in it can ever be really good, the idea of taking a libertarian approach to supplying government is a good idea. Apparently as a formative entry into a new space within cryptocurrencies. Yeah, look, anything that suggests government as a concept, I'm not going to read. Voluntary administrations on the blockchain is what I would like the world to embrace. Can we not put the government, the social and community requirements of our environment? So if I live in Australia, why can't we move all the working aspects of government and the departments, and a lot of that in regards to the voting and the welfare, and then we have all the sectors of government moved into the blockchain, and the society can then invest into this new administration via tokens, whether that's through welfare, through health, tourism, entertainment, sustainable energy, infrastructure. You can still get your roads if you're into roads and those type of things, and definitely have a look at this new concept. We've got the technology to vote. We can do all of these referendums. We can get in there. We could seamlessly enhance and contribute on a voluntary basis and push our society forward without the need of the Crown, without the need of the bankers, without the need for the political parties that are all supported by and sponsored by corporate interests. There's a thought for you, and I'm going to keep moving on. Developing the continuing story. This section discusses existent tokens, coins, and clues as to future performance from our deep linguistic data mining. So here are the main players. Bitcoin, the previously forecast sloshing of capital in and out of the crypto space is indicated to continue, including Bitcoin, as the cryptocurrency space explodes in the hyperinflation eruption of late August and through to 2018. Bitcoin shows as being affected, that is, rising in a more or less continuing crocodile tooth pattern, which is very normal in the stock market, through the vicious periods of August and into hyperinflationary bursts of September and October. So he's expecting big movements of September and October. I did call that I think July and August will be a little bit up and down, money going in and out. We're still in a what do you call it, retracement. So some of these ups and downs are going to be a bit of an illusion. So just be mindful. Dash is indicated to hit the same intensity wall as the other cryptocurrencies as we enter September. However, in the case of Dash, this coin is showing as being splattered onto part of the wall by the speed of LITECOIN. This is indicated to push the emotional values of Dash back into a secondary position from early August through to seismic activities of the rest of the month and well into September. So there you go. It looks like LITECOIN and all the changes they're making may create a stir. But yeah, keep your eye on that. DigiByte, been hammered over the last month or so. I'm a big fan of DigiByte. The price doesn't affect me at all in regards to not even just my investment. I'm just not worried about daily prices. I'm worried about, all I can see is the future. It wouldn't surprise me if DigiByte's being manipulated so people can improve their position on it. I do believe it's a big player. It's a long term. If you've got DigiByte, let's have this same conversation in 2 years, and I think you're going to be very, very pleasantly surprised. However, in this report, DigiByte is showing in our data as an asset in demand over August. The data would have news coming out just behind yet more news about LITECOIN. This trailing effect is described in our data as continuing over the remainder of summer, but with DigiByte exiting the season in an up mode. This likely relates to the rumours proving out positive. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Anyone that's following DigiByte would know about there was a lot of hype in the last couple of months about certain aspects to their development, and they've gone quiet while they're actually going and doing these things and putting it into action. So it'll be interesting to see if that actually manifests and it all just gets reversed. So Ethereum. Ethereum, it's a gas. That is not the only item in the data sets affecting Ethereum, and the LITECOIN ETH model space acquires new language around bellows as a descriptor for the pumping of wealth into initial coin offerings, ICOs, and out of the cryptocurrencies. The data has the ICO fever being the disease affecting the ETH prices all through the rest of this year. Have a look at what EOS has done. They've got hundreds of thousands. They're going to have millions. Who knows how many ETH they're going to receive by the end of the year, and all these other ICOs. There's no doubt that it's got to affect the price at some stage. There are indications that LTC will start being accepted for many of the ICOs in fall. Well, there's a good one. And thus causing the gyrations in ETH prices to flatten down slightly. It will be shocking at the time, but the ranges of the rise and fall of ETH are described as gut-wrenching and disturbing and fainting and puking. I do believe ETH is already obsolete in a lot of ways. Do I think it's going to go away? No, I don't. I think it's going to be there. It's still going to be supported by all these current dApps that are on there. It's got an ecosystem. I do believe EOS is going to be something to watch. However, it's not here yet, so let's talk about that once it's established. ICOs are definitely affecting the price. LITECOIN. Major developments in LITECOIN underlying technology, as forecast more than a few reports back, are indicated to be surfacing in August, such that by mid-August, as forecast a few reports back, just said that, LITECOIN will be involved price and volume competition with ETH. Right, so some of this language gets a little bit hard to read at times, but saying that LTC is going to be taking on ETH, I wonder if that's going to affect the price. Maybe LTC might be one to just stack up a little bit on. You never know. The rate of acceleration of LITECOIN in the data sets has big increases, almost stair steps, that are showing over the next 5 months or less. These stair steps are indicating that very large capital inflows will be occurring from August onwards. The stair steps within the data sets have several instances in which we get numbers. These would suggest a 3-digit US dollar ratio to LITECOINs begins before September and grows over the remainder of 2017. So, very interesting. looks like LTC. Now he's got a little acquire and hold here. So he's only done that for LTC, which is interesting. Ripple. Ripple annoys me. So that's a personal opinion from probably Cliff High. It should just go away. The code is complex, complicated, and prone to problems. But there is big money behind it, and it keeps showing up in data as a gainer. I think the big thing with Ripple, I got out of Ripple. I did really well initially. I moved it, got out. I got frustrated with a few things with their platform. But I'm not here to bastardize or pull Ripple down. But what I believe, if banks are going to use technology, I'm pretty sure that they'll use the code and the source code to create their own internal network. I don't really believe that they would want to move their own money on a network that has us on it. I just can't see that. You know, we're the goyim, and they're going to want their money running through their own channels in private, and it won't be affected by anything from a social aspect as well. So I just don't know about Ripple. I can't see it being there for the long term. The concept was good, but I think that concept's going to evolve into internal network. Veritasium. Our data sets continue to have Veritasium rated as a real star of the crazy cryptocurrency 2017. I don't think that's even possible. I do feel there's a little bit of a push within these documents towards certain coins. Maybe Cliff's invested in them, you never know. But you know, Veritasium definitely has a pretty good roadmap, and I think what they're offering is very, very sustainable for the future. I don't have any. It's about $200 I saw today. It's gone up about 100 in the last very short term. And again, it's not something I'm looking at, only because it's out of my reach in regards to what I believe is going to bring me the greatest return in the next 2 years. That's what I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at just the the ×2, ×3, ×4 returns or the steady returns. I've got a little bit of that, but I'm going pretty hard on the coins that are going to deliver the most return over the next 2 years, and I think that's a reasonable thing to do. May as well go hard. Sovereign tokens. Sovereign tokens are just talking about the countries, individual countries, or you want to look at the governments creating their own cryptocurrencies for the space. So we're talking about the EU or the yen or the US dollar and those type of things. Whether or not they'll be renamed, if there's going to be a not necessarily a market collapse, but I think that's due, but a financial changeover, if you call it a switch or a transition between this particular digital currency and what we've got. There's no doubt they may rebrand everything it sort of pushes all the bad blood away, especially over 6 to 12 months of disruption that's going to cause. So I'm waiting for that to occur. Support space. This area provides an ongoing discussion on supporting software and hardware companies that will do well. Look, I think anyone that's looked at who's supplying the GPOs, I think they've been sold out for months. And I think they were turning over more money than pretty much anything on the stock market for a very, very long time. And they're probably still at number one. Metal space. Now, I'm a big believer in gold and silver, only because, it's real, you can hold it, it's physical, it stores well. It's gone up, gold's up over 300% in 15 years, if you want to look at it that way. Silver's about 200%, so it's sort of a very reliable store of wealth. And if you're going to go back before 2000, gold was once $35 and now it's up to $1,500-1,200. We know it's suppressed. That suppression can't last forever because people are getting fed up with it, and it's quite evident, and they've been busted. Deutsche Bank got busted in the news about manipulation and these type of things, so it's well understood. COMEX is guilty. I don't know the full details, but I know it's occurring. Now, what Cliff High is saying here in regards to metal space is he's apologising for his energy towards the gold rush. He was talking about the global gold rush, and I think what he was sort of saying, and I'm going to just read this out. Thus, as late mid last year, my mistake was interpretation of the emotional rush mass fugue state, or fugue state, that describes humans caught up in gold fever as being applied only to gold. Again, my mistake. Of course, in 2005 it was not possible to note the subtle differences that are now able to be discerned as the language manifests then and from the point. The error was the exclusive of my narrow vision attaching these emotions to precious metals. I really screwed up. So what he's talking about is that crypto fever is the gold rush equivalent. So he was talking about the gold rush, but what that was the crypto rush. It's the same energy, it's the same influx, and that's what we've seen. Now, there's a lot of information here about gold and silver. I'm a big fan of it. You can read this. I'm going to just hold that there in gold and silver. And there is a reference in this. He was talking about that. Our data shows that the metal space begins to fray the constraints over mid-July from the 18th onward as the flow starts moving into metals as people take wealth out of the cryptocurrency space. So there's no doubt if we're going to have some real all-time highs, big boys come in, take their wealth, convert it to fiat, or probably you'll be able to just convert certain cryptocurrencies to gold, and I imagine you can already do that. I think you already can do that. So you could actually buy the specific cryptocurrency, send that off, and get your gold, whether that's paper gold or physical gold. That's happening, which is only supports the whole gold and silver ideology. You know, I really do believe that everyone should be stacking it. You know, that's from an investment point of view. You don't have to. Dirt space. Now this is talking about retail stores in America being knocked down, demolition done, or it's called, and being interim solutions in car parks and religious events and roller skating, and there's other words, converted into office space and high-tech incubator spaces, and all sorts of different things are going to be happening into the retail space in America. This is USA specific. Oh, he's got USA, UK and Canada. Probably happened in Australia, probably a lot of the westernised countries where there's just way too much retail space. So a lot of the malls and things like that being ripped down. And we're already seeing a lot of the major players in America, they're selling off, I think, a lot of their stores, and they're consolidating. Warnings. They're talking about Oxen wallet clones have a Trojan and malware within the client portion of the wallet. I don't know what Oxen is. If you know anyone that's in Oxen, just make sure you check that out. Coming down, there was a couple of Q&As here. He was talking about the resistance points, so he was talking about the crocodile teeth. There was talk about Bitcoin going to $4,000 US. So at the moment, he's talking about a resistance point of 2,600. It's going to be retraced back to 1,600 plus, and I think we've almost seen that, almost. There might be another one or two, and then it's going to peak and move towards 4,200. In the data sets, he's got 4,688, and he references that the 8s are coming out again. So he's talking about a current, I reckon a pretty ups and down type of July, August. We know that he's talking about October and September being really, really full on, and we may see that Bitcoin goes to the next level at that stage. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. I think 2018 is going to be the year. Talks about global mean living wages. I'm not a big fan on that. That's just talking about everyone earning a certain amount of money. I think the best way to do it would be people can invest into this decentralized administration system that I'm talking about, and people are responsible for their own coins based on their particular circumstances, whether that's financial or if they've already been approved for a welfare because they've got a disability and missing a leg or something like that. They'll get a certain amount of coins criteria which sets them up, and it's inflationary and it supports them for the future, and there might be also staking and interest involved. That is what I would like to see, and I'd like other people to maybe share with me what they think of that idea and maybe talk about it with friends and see if we can make it a thing. Let's get rid of the old cronies. I keep using the word crony out of government. So here he's just talking about the definitions. So that's pretty much it. So what do we get out of that? Gold and silver. Gold rush was the crypto rush. The next 2 months are going to be up and down. LITECOIN looks like it's going to come forward pretty strongly. DigiByte got some references that they're going to come out with told you so. What else? There was a few other things in there and some new coins, but before this video goes on too long, I'm going to leave it there. That's my little dictation of the latest half-past human hot rocket days for July, August 2017. If you want to get this report, you can always get that from Cliff High's half past human and support him, because I think that's fair. He's the one that's putting it together. You can support it. I'm happy to read them out. If anyone wants to send me the reports, I have got a few people doing that. Really appreciate it. Thanks guys for watching my latest video. You can always catch this, and I will be doing a little bit of a report on my steem.com at Sebastian Jago. If you have a look at the video below here, I've got some other details, and I've got the links to the Sebastian Jago Steem and some other stuff that I've written. All good. Have a good day, and see you in the next video. Thanks.